So when you hear the phrase "make a difference," you start to think about what you can physically or specifically do to make a difference. Or sometimes maybe you feel like you can't make a difference or you don't want to. Or in the parable of the talents, it says, to one he gave 5 talents of money, to another 2 talents. Does that sound familiar yet? And to another 1 talent, each according to his ability. The man who received the 5 talents went at once and put his money to work and gained 5 more. So also the one with 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who received the 1 talent went off, dug a hole in the ground, and hid his master's money. So then what happens is the master comes back and he brings all the servants back and asks them what they had done. The one with 5 talents had doubled his, the one with 2 talents had doubled his. So they all had doubled their money. But the third one, he came back and he said this. He said, "Master, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and went and hid your talent in the ground. See, here's what belongs to you." Now, I was looking at this, and Rebecca read it also, but I was kind of looking at a different part of it. And I didn't catch this the first couple times I read it, but it says, "I know that you are a hard man that harvests where you have not sown and gathers where you have not scattered seed." Which means that the farmer, or the landowner, knew the risk he was taking. Because there's always a risk in trying to make a difference. He knew that risk of what he was doing whenever he gave that last servant only the 1 talent. And so the master said this. He said, "You wicked, lazy servant, you knew that I harvest where I have not sown and gather where I have not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers, so that when I returned, I would have received it back with interest. Take the talent from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents, and throw that worthless servant outside into the darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth." Now, I'm not exactly sure if God's going to throw us out the back of the dumpster and, like that, but it kind of implies of what he's thinking whenever you're not using the gifts he's given you for the world. He's thinking, okay, I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't use it, And so I read this book in English. Maybe some of you have read it, Grendel, which is basically the prequel to Beowulf. And there's a part in Grendel where the main character, who's this monster, he's kind of having this dilemma of, should I attack this kingdom? Should I not? Should I terrorize it? Because he finds joy in terrorizing these kingdoms. And so he finds himself in this cave with this all-knowing dragon. And the dragon tells him that it doesn't matter what he does. Because everything he does in 100, 1,000, 10,000 years, it's all going to be forgotten. In time, he will be forgotten. Everything he did and the choices that he made will be forgotten, and the life of him will cease to exist in anyone's memory. Now, and then he also gave this little bit of advice of what you should do is, the easiest thing to do in life would be to just go find a pile of gold and sit on it. Because that's what the dragon was doing whenever he was talking to Grendel. And I'm not exactly sure how, even though this is coming from a fictional book, and from an all-knowing dragon. I was reading this, and I was sitting there in class, and I was thinking, it kind of sounds a little true. Who's going to remember me in a thousand years? I don't think I'm going to do anything that drastic in my life to be remembered. And another part is the part where he says, the easiest thing to do is to find a pile of gold and just sit on it. And that's basically the equivalent of if you were to work real hard, you go through college, you get your degree and all this stuff, and you become very successful, and then you do absolutely nothing with it. You do absolutely nothing with this, and you just become all to yourself, and you don't share or give, And so after reading that, I was like, I need to see what the Bible says about this, because I'm one of those people that's kind of like I like proving if the Bible says you're wrong about that or you're right about that. It's like, well, the Bible said this, you were wrong. And so I found it in 2 Corinthians, and it says, "For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, that each one may receive the things done in the body, according to what he has done, whether good or bad." And so I passed out a few flowers before service. A few people haven't, because I'm kind of a visual. I like seeing what I'm talking about. And let's just say for now that those flowers represents gifts that God has given me, and those flowers are people that I have affected positively in my life. I think I've handed out about 10 flowers, but I also brought these flowers, if you didn't know, and that's probably like 16 flowers. But my thinking is, what if, say those were my gifts also, but I'm thinking those gifts, they're too insignificant. They wouldn't make a difference in anyone's life. What could they really do? But maybe the real underlying reason is that I'm not willing to put out the effort and face the challenges and risks that come with making something happen with the gifts that I think are insignificant. We were all put on this earth for a reason, and it's our job to make something of it. Just think if all those would have been dispersed to, how many more people